Hey everyone, Meinke here from MLive.com, joined by Justin Rogers. We're 6 weeks into the season, Justin, and I'm no math guy, but that seems like to be quite a bit, and the Lions are still ranked number one in defense. Are you ready to believe?
Pulling away from it with it. I think they got like a 17 or 18-yard advantage on the 49ers at this point. It wasn't until last week's performance against Minnesota that I was truly ready to buy. I know it sounds weird, rookie quarterback, like you kind of expect the Lions to do poorly in that, or to do well in that game, but each week they've continued to build credibility onto this defense. I'm no longer expecting previous year's versions to rear their ugly head. This defense is legit. I go back to the Green Bay game. That was probably the definitive statement game. You had Aaron Rodgers, Randall Cobb, Jordy Nelson, Eddie Lacy, all healthy, participating, and they shut down the Packers for 7 points, made Rodgers look as bad as I've ever seen him. And
that's because it was as bad as he's been. I mean, statistically,
it's definitely up there. I don't have the numbers, but it's definitely the worst he's been against Detroit for sure. So I'm completely buying into this defense at this point.
I can understand the reservations because 2 weeks ago it was Kyle Orton, last week it's Teddy Bridgewater. Maybe Rodgers just had a random bad day. Those things happen. But it's like in baseball, right? Good hitters make a living off of feasting off of bad pitching. That's what they do. Good hitters are going to be shut down by good pitchers. That's just going to happen. With Detroit, it's every single week they're just feasting off of the weaknesses of the opponent. That's what good defenses do, and that's what I think you have to like about the Detroit defense is that it's not getting it done one way or another. 1 week it's Rasheed Mathis and Darius Slay doing their thing in the back end. The next week it's DeAndre Levy, sacking a guy or getting a safety in the backfield, or it's like last week when you have the defensive line just absolutely destroying the Minnesota offensive line and Teddy Bridgewater. I mean, look at that game. 8 sacks from 7 different guys, and it's truly impressive what they're able to do all the way across the board. They have depth. I'm ready to buy as well. I'm not sure if they're number one, but they're an elite defense, and I'm okay with saying that.
Yeah, and people want to credit the defensive line or credit the secondary, and it all plays in together. That's just how it works. What we could see in the Minnesota game that maybe they don't show on television was there just was no open receivers. Teddy Bridgewater didn't have those first and second reads in the intermediate to deep levels. And if your defensive line is playing well, and there are no quick passes, that's where the sacks come. And the fact that they're getting there is credit to the defensive line, but the secondary is covering well. Obviously, Levy's playing outstanding. Tahir Whitehead has stepped in and played really nice. And Terrell Austin's just found this right combination of that third spot, whether, it's Gore or Cassius Vaughn, Ashley Palmer. They're rotating so many guys in. They have a lot of sub packages working right now, and, it's all clicking.
That's been the one constant for me through all of this is Terrell Austin, and
Absolutely.
with all the injuries, there's been some fluidity at each level of the defense at different points, and yet they've just marched on. They've lost a team leader like Stephen Tulloch in the middle, and all the problems they've had in the defensive backfield, and yet they haven't missed a beat. It seems in nearly any week, and I think it has a lot to do with Terrell Austin, and he's designed a scheme that guys like to play. It's aggressive. It's stripping down a lot of the complexities of years past and really just asking the guys to go play. And I think guys like playing in a scheme like that, and they've responded well to that. Guys I've talked to have said that he asks for a lot of feedback as well. He asks guys for feedback on the game plan. He asks them for cues that have maybe worked in the past or keys in the past, or if a guy's faced a certain quarterback quite a bit, he'll ask them for input on what it's like facing that guy and so forth. And that's something guys have said that wasn't necessarily there in years past.
And he doesn't overcoach on game days. I think once they get to game days, they stick with the plan, and he trusts the players' skill sets and attributes and football instincts to carry them, and they feel comfortable like that. But I like that we're making these declarations of elite defense, are comfortable with the defense, and into town comes the number one offense in the NFC.
Nice segue there. No, that's the interesting, intriguing thing I think about this matchup, and I'm pretty excited to see the game on Sunday because it's the classic strength on strength matchup between Detroit's number one ranked defense and New Orleans' number 2 offense, but number 1 in passing offense. Drew Brees can hack it. We've seen that for years and years now. Sean Payton's one of the best offensive minds in the game. Jim Caldwell called him kind of a riverboat gambler today, and that speaks to his unpredictability, and that makes it difficult to game plan for those guys. And I think this is a nice litmus test for this defense, and they can either maybe vet themselves as truly this elite defense, or maybe they'll be exposed, in a soft spot. Because if anyone can find a weak spot in this defense, it would seem to be Sean Payton.
Yeah, and I was looking at some interesting numbers with Drew Brees today. It's not that he's facing less pressure than any other quarterback. I think he's only been He's been pressured like 68 times, Stafford 74, so very comparable, especially since they've had their bye week already. Breeze has been sacked 4 times. Stafford, we've talked about, has been sacked, I don't know, 612 times or something at this point. It's ridiculous. So there's such different quarterbacks. He knows how to sense the pressure, how to avoid it, how to get rid of the football. The thing with Breeze this year is he's throwing a little bit more picks than he's used to, and I think that's going to be the key. They're going to pick up yards. The Saints are going to gain yards on this defense. It's not going to be like Minnesota where they're going to shut them down and hold them to the 225. You're probably going to see 350 to 450 in yards. It's going to be continuing to force the Saints into making those mistakes, which they've been doing quite a bit on the road this season.
That's what we got for today. We're both buying the defense. Of course, we're doing this 5 days before we could look pretty silly against the Saints. We'll see how that one plays out. We'll be here throughout the week as the Lions prepare for their Week 7 game against the Saints. For Justin Rogers, I'm Kyle Meinke. We are MLive. Keep it right here.